To you about how Ethiopian Christians read the Bible, or perhaps even reading the Bible with Ethiopian Christians. And that for Ethiopians includes the lost book of Enoch, which is a book not found in other canons. I think it's an interesting subject because reading the Bible both unites and divides Christians around the world, and it's a really important topic for us to understand better. The Bible that we have in Ethiopia dates from round about the 5th century, and we date that because the fact that Enoch managed to make its way into the Ethiopian Bible, it stopped being circulated by that time elsewhere. So probably by that time we have the Bible. And so Enoch and also the Book of Jubilees made it into the Ethiopian Bible. Also with a slightly different text, but the Ethiopians also have their own approach to reading the Bible. It's not entirely different from other traditions, but it has its own interesting nuances, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I think it's important to say as well that for me, understanding how Ethiopians read the Bible is in one aspect a study of history and text and all the things that that brings. But most importantly, perhaps, it's also a study of the life of the Ethiopian church today. And you can't really separate those two. I think so much in Orthodox Christianity, it's like ancient history happened yesterday, isn't it? And I think we shouldn't pull those two things apart. The tradition of reading the Bible and interpreting it is still growing and evolving in a creative way. Lying behind the tradition of scholarship on the Bible in Ethiopia is a tradition of both monks and other scholars who were trained in monasteries, and they engage in what's primarily an oral tradition of transmitting the understanding of the scriptures. Monks train for years. They memorize huge amounts of scripture and commentary. And in fact, if you want to be a Bible teacher in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the starting point is to memorize the whole Bible, both in Amharic and in the classical language of Ge'ez. Their approach is one of appreciative inquiry and represents a very different hermeneutic, perhaps, from a lot of Western contemporary scholarship. And it also emphasizes that reading scripture is part of the life of the church with the goal of transforming lives and promoting communion with God. There are various things about the approach that I think are interesting. So, for instance, the commentaries do record variations in the text, but these are not exercising textual criticism. What they're doing is finding different readings that illuminate or give us another aspect on understanding the Bible. So the variations are there for enhancing understanding rather than imagining, reconstructing some other text. The tradition is also accumulative, so you'll see on some verses that are commented on lots and lots of different interpretations. Famously, Revelation 6:2 and the white horse has 13 different interpretations of that white horse. And they can't all possibly be true at the same time. And you might read that and think, what have they done here? They're contradicting themselves. But I think behind that lies something that's really interesting, probably best expressed by Ephraim the Syrian, who wasn't Ethiopian, but the Syriac outlook on reading the scriptures has quite a lot in common with the Ethiopian. So in his commentary on the Diatessaron, Ephraim said, "What we leave behind us in your word is far greater than what we take from it, like those who are thirsting and drinking from a fountain." So you imagine you drink water from a fountain, there's much more left behind. So in a sense, not that we can't understand the Bible, but that we're so far from a complete understanding that these different interpretations, they don't need to be resolved. We don't need to decide one is better than another, but they all offer insight into a life-changing encounter with the scriptures. I think another entertaining and interesting aspect, which is mostly historical, is one of sort of localizing interpretations. So you imagine many of these commentaries are written to help rural Ethiopian farmers understand the Bible. So when the commentators come in Exodus 26 to the description of the tabernacle and the curtain, and it's got hooks and eyes to support the curtain. There's nothing quite like this in Ethiopia. There aren't even any curtains. What do you do with that? So Ethiopians have these beautiful leather boxes that they keep their prayer books in, and they're joined with a loop of leather and another piece that hooks through it. And in the commentary, the supports for the temple curtain are likened to this one thing in the culture that their minds could find that might help them understand what it looks like.